Okay. So all of you put this heading multiple integrals. All of you put this heading multiple integrals. Okay. So view of definite integral. Okay. So far, what kind of integral you know? We have initially learnt about indefinite integral, right? What is indefinite integral? Nothing but antiderivative integral f of x dx. Now after that you have learnt about definite integral. What is that about? A to b f of x dx. Okay. And do you say that definite integral is nothing but finding indefinite integral and applying the limits? Is it true for every time?
No, sir. Properties.
So
No.
is it true? For example, if I want to integrate from 1.2 to 5.6 step x dx, will you integrate step x first and then substitute the limits? Did you do like that? Okay. There is no antiderivative for step x. Am I right? So it is not necessary that definite integration means finding indefinite integral and then substitute the limits. No, not necessary. Okay. And for definite integral, it is sufficient that f of x must be piecewise continuous. What do you mean by piecewise continuous? A function which is okay. Just listen. Later you can write down. If I draw a function like this in an interval a to b, what kind of function it is? Do you say it is continuous function? Do you say it is continuous function?
Yes.
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 Now, if I draw the graph like this, do you say it is a continuous function
No.
on the interval a to b? No, because there is a discontinuity. There is a discontinuity at the point C. At the point C. Okay. And what kind of discontinuity? Discontinuity can be classified in several ways. Here you see there is a gap. That gap is called jump. What is this gap called? What is this gap called? Jump. If this jump is finite, we say C is a finite jump discontinuity. If this jump is a finite, if the distance is finite, then we say C is a finite jump discontinuity. If the jump is infinity, then we say C is of infinite jump discontinuity. Can you give an example of a infinite jump discontinuity? Can you provide any example of a discontinuity where the jump is infinity? Jump is nothing but the difference between left limit and right limit. If the difference between right limit and left limit is finite, then that is called finite jump, otherwise infinite jump. Is there an example? where you see a infinite jump between left limit and right limit.
Tan x.
Tan x, correct. Tan x, because the tan pi by 2 is infinity, right? So from 0 to pi by 2, it is going to be something like this, right? Other one is going to be like this. So there is an infinite jump between left limit and right limit. Therefore, pi by 2 is an infinite jump discontinuity. Good. Is there any other example? So pi by 2, 3 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, these are all infinite jump discontinuities. Is there any other example? Can you think of any other example?
Secant x.
Okay, other than trigonometric functions. One by x. What about 1 by x? Where it is not continuous. Where 1 by x is discontinuous?
0.
0. What is the jump at 0?
Infinite.
Right limit is infinity. Left limit is minus infinity. So what is the jump at 0? Infinity. Is that okay? So 0 is an infinite jump discontinuity. So what I am trying to say is jump discontinuities are of two types: finite jump discontinuity, infinite jump discontinuity. If I want to say a function is piecewise continuous, the function should have finite number of discontinuities in a finite interval. What do you mean by finite interval? The length of the interval must be finite. A to B, what is the distance? What is the length of the interval? Means B minus A. B minus A is finite line segment. So in any finite interval, the finite number of discontinuities must be finite, and each of the discontinuity must be a finite jump kind. There should not be any infinite jump discontinuity, or there should not be other than jump discontinuity. Okay, so whatever the discontinuities you see, they must be finite, and each discontinuity must be a finite jump. Such a function is said to be piecewise continuous. As the name suggests, piecewise continuous function is nothing but a function which is composed of finitely many continuous functions. That is piecewise continuous function. So what is an example of a piecewise continuous function? Can you give an example of a piecewise continuous function? A function which is composed of finitely many uh, so it may not be continuous over an interval, but it may be continuous over sub intervals. Somebody said what is an example?
Mod x.
Mod x mod x or
Step x.
step x, right? So step x. So step x is a piecewise continuous function. As you see, it is like this, right? Now, where are the discontinuities? Discontinuities are at integers. Now you see at each discontinuity the jump is finite. At each discontinuity the jump is finite. Therefore, therefore you take any subinterval, any interval, any finite interval, or you take any interval of finite length. That interval will contain only finite number of discontinuities. Each discontinuity is a finite. I have a problem with my writing pad. Just wait a minute. Okay. Total number of discontinuities are infinity. 0 is a discontinuity, 1 is a discontinuity, 3 is a discontinuity, 1000 is a discontinuity. There are infinite number of discontinuities. What I'm taking, you take any interval, finite interval. Let us say interval is from 0 to 99, 99.5. In 0 to 99.5, how many discontinuities are there? At most 100. Or 0 to 500.5, how many discontinuities are there? At most 500. So whatever the finite interval you take, in that finite interval, if you are having only finite number of discontinuities and each discontinuity is a finite jump kind, then that is said to be finite piecewise continuous function. Okay, so therefore step function is a piecewise continuous function. Okay, because whatever the finite interval you take, in that interval it is going to have only finitely many discontinuities. Each one is finite discontinuity. Okay. Now somebody said mod x. Is mod x piecewise continuous function or not? Why? Mod x is a continuous function. Is it not a piecewise continuous? Do you agree that every continuous function is piecewise continuous or not?
It doesn't have a jump.
Hmm?
It doesn't have jump.
See, you are missing the primary condition. Suppose my graph is like this, from A to B. Is this continuous or not? In this interval, is this continuous or not?
Yes, sir.
It is continuous. Now, is this piecewise continuous or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, because what is the condition for piecewise continuities? The number of discontinuities must be finite. How many discontinuities are there for this?
0.
Zero. Is zero finite or not?
Finite.
That's it. Okay. And if at all there is a discontinuity, that must be finite jump discontinuity. You show me discontinuity, I will show you that is a finite jump discontinuity. There is no jump discontinuity. There is no discontinuity. It is composed of finitely many continuous functions. It is composed of one continuous function. Therefore, every continuous function is a piecewise continuous. Do you agree? Therefore, mod x is also a piecewise continuous function, because mod x is a continuous function. Every continuous function is a piecewise continuous. Is the converse true? Is a piecewise continuous function will be continuous? Not necessary. Not necessary. It may be true, may not be true. Okay. In this case, it is a piecewise continuous function, but not a continuous function. And in this case, it is a piecewise continuous function as well as continuous function. So, see, a piecewise continuous function doesn't mean that it is not continuous. It may be continuous also, or it may be discontinuous also. But every continuous function is always piecewise continuous. Is this clear? So, for the existence of integration, what is sufficient is f to be piecewise continuous on an interval a to b. For the existence of integral, definite integral, it is sufficient that the function to be piecewise continuous on an interval a to b. This is very, very important point that I am telling. This piecewise continuity plays very important role in calculus, because you are going to learn more about integral calculus, in which the sufficient condition is a piecewise continuity. Okay. So this definite integral can be classified in several ways. Okay. What is that? One is called proper integral. Other one is called improper integral. What do you mean by proper integral? Okay. So proper integral means both must be finite. Okay. Minus infinity less than a less than b less than infinity. Okay. So second one is what? F of x is piecewise continuous. f of x is piecewise continuous. I said this is a sufficient condition. What do you mean by sufficient? If this condition is satisfied, then definitely definite integral will exist. If this is not satisfied, you cannot say that definite integral does not exist. May exist, may not exist. Piecewise continuity is a sufficient condition. It is not a necessary condition. Okay. F of x is piecewise continuous on interleaved. Please understand the difference between sufficiency and necessary. Okay. Okay. Something like if you have roti, kapda, makan, you can live happily. Is it sufficient or necessary to live happily? Please respond. You don't know? It was once a great slogan.
Necessary.
Necessary. Without makan, can't you live happily? Without home. Just think of the difference between necessary and sufficient. Okay, I will tell you like this. Okay, if you get 80 marks out of 100, you will pass. Is it necessary or sufficient?
Sufficient. Necessary.
What is the necessary condition?
30.
Getting 40 in BTech. In BTech, getting 40. Okay, so if you are getting 40, if you don't get 40, you will not pass. So that is a necessary condition. Okay, and if you don't get 80, okay, I cannot say that you don't pass. Still, you can pass. If you are not getting 80, means you might have got 79 or you might have got 39. If you are getting 79, you still pass. You are getting 30, 39, you failed. That means not getting 80, okay, may lead to failure case or successful case, but not getting 40 will lead to failure case. Okay, so that is necessary and this is sufficient. Okay, so what is improper integral? So I think there is a problem there. Okay. Improper integral means one of the limit is not finite. Okay, something like 0 to infinity or minus infinity to infinity or minus infinity to 0 f of x dx. Okay, those things are improper integrals. Okay, so improper integrals can be of two types. Okay, uh, kind 1, kind 2. Okay, so kind 1 is okay, a equal to minus infinity or b equal to minus infinity. Okay, and next or it can be both also. Okay, kind 2 means okay, modulus of f of x or f of x may tend to infinity as extending to c at a point c in between a to b. Okay, something like minus 1 to 1 1 by x dx. What about 1 by x? 1 by x tending to modulus of 1 by x tending to infinity, no, as extending to 0. Where is that 0? 0 is in between minus 1 to 1. Though it is looking like a proper integral, this is actually an improper integral. So just by looking finite limits, don't think that it is a proper integral. Okay, the function must have a finite value. Okay, it is going to an infinite, therefore it is an improper integral of type 2. Whereas if I write 0 to infinity e power minus x dx, this is an improper integral because one of the limit is infinity and it is a piecewise continuous function, therefore integration will exist. So this is an improper integral of kind 1. Whereas if I write 0 to pi by 2, something like sine 2x dx, this is a proper integral. This is a proper integral. Do you understand? Shall I proceed? Shall I?
Yes.
Okay, so you have done, I think, a good part of integration. So all this is for function of single variable. Can you see that? Whether the indefinite integral or definite integral, this is all about integrating a function of single variable. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about multiple integrals, which is integration of a function of several variables. It can be function of 2 variables, or it can be function of 3 variables. Okay. So before going to that, tell me what is the geometrical interpretation of this definite integral. Let us say it is a proper integral. So what is the geometrical interpretation of a definite integral a to b?
Area under curve.
Yes, a definite integral gives the area. Let us assume for the clarity, let us assume that it is a continuous function. So integral from a to b. Area bounded by the curve. Area bounded by the curve and the x-axis, right? So this part. So this is the graph of y equal to f of x. Okay, and these are the ordinates. Okay, this is x-axis, this is y-axis. So this part. Okay. So again, exactly this will represent area when f of x is completely positive. Am I right? Suppose if the graph is like this. Suppose you are integrating from a to b like this. Then what is this integration gives? Is it giving the area? What it is giving? It is giving the algebraic sum of the areas above the x-axis and below the x-axis bounded by the curve y equal to f of x. What is the expected sign of the output? Are you going to guess expect minus or plus?
Minus.
Minus, because you can see more area below the x-axis than the above the x-axis, right? If more area is above the x-axis, then the expected output is going to be positive. And if there is an equal amount of area from above and below the x-axis, then you will get the integration is 0. Okay, something like this, 0 to pi. If you are integrating from, if you are integrating sin x from 0 to pi, expected answer is going to be 0 because there is an equal amount of area above and below the x-axis. Is that okay? So any area above the x-axis will be positive. Any area below the x-axis, integration will give a negative values. So if there is an equal amount of areas, plus minus will get cancelled. You will get a answer 0. Okay, that doesn't mean that there is no area. There will be an area which is equally distributed above and below the x-axis. That is what the interpretation. Right? So this is all about definite integral. Right? Now we are going to move towards multiple integral. Now please tell me, in the definite integral a to b f of x dx, what is the interval of f of x? What is the region of integration? What is the interval of integration? Or what is the domain of the function? You will integrate f of x over its domain. Domain means generally you will consider as the limits. What are the limits? A to b. Where is this a to b? On x-axis. You know, f of x domain, y equal to f of x domain is a subset of a real line. f of x domain is one dimensional because it is part of x-axis, real line. Do you understand? Because input is a single variable, x is a real number, so collection of real numbers forms a line segment which is part of a real line. Is this clear to all of you? So where the domain of f of x lies? What is your answer? If I ask you where is the domain of f of x? Where the domain of f of x lies? And real. Yeah, a to b. This interval a to b is nothing but part of x-axis. What is the dimension of the domain? One dimensional, because real line is a one dimensional. Okay. Now we shall move on to function of two variables. Where the domain of this f of x comma y?
Plane.
Plane. What is that plane? XY plane.
Exactly.
Right? So the domain can be something like this. So when you consider this as XY plane, so domain can be something like this. Okay. Now here you integrated the function or its domain. You integrated the function or its domain. Where is the domain? Domain is on a line a to b, which is a subset of real axis minus infinity to infinity. Now in a similar way, we would like to integrate this function. Or a domain. What is a domain? Two dimensional. Therefore, this is called double integral. Double integral over R. There is nothing wrong in denoting this integral like this. Integral of f of x dx a to b, or integral of f of x dx over an interval I. Okay, what is the domain of f of x here? I. You are integrating function or its domain. In a similar way, you are integrating a function or its domain. Do you agree? Okay. So dA, this is going to be dA. What is the dA? I will tell you later. This is called a double integral. That is, if you consider that as a single integral, you may consider it as a double integral. Definite integral is nothing but a single integral, and this is a double integral. Double integral is also definite integral only. Okay. Single integral means you are integrating a function of single variable double over a domain. Double integral means you are integrating a function of two variables over its domain. Similarly, if I have function of three variables, where the domain of this function lies?
XYZ plane.
XYZ plane. XYZ.
Sir,
XYZ space. Am I right? It's a three-dimensional space. So domain can be some solid kind of region. Okay. So something like this. It can be a regular solid or irregular solid. Okay. So the solid means points on the surface inside the surface. Okay. Call it as D. Then if you are trying to integrate this function, at all points over this region. That means at all points on the region, on the surface, inside the surface also. If you are trying to integrate this function at all points in the region, that is called triple integral. So how do we denote that? Triple integral D. So in a similar manner, you can have a multiple integral. Okay, something like if you have a function of n variables, x1, x2, and x3, and so on xn. Okay, then you may have to put n integrals or the n-dimensional space. N-dimensional space. Okay, something like dx1, dx2, and so on dx. Okay. So this is multiple integral. Okay, so this concept can be generalized to function of n variables also. Okay, but our discussion is over double integral and triple integral only. Once you understand the procedure, a similar thing you can do for multiple n dimensional thing also. Okay, now how do we interpret this double integral and triple integral? Now earlier I told you about the graph. Okay, graph of a function, you remember. What is graph of function of single variable? I said graph
Straight
is nothing
line.
but collection. Graph is nothing but collection of inputs and outputs. I said. What is the input for this? X. What is the output for this? Y. You can see input is X, output is Y. Arbitrary x comma Y. How do you plot the graph? By identifying x comma Y, right? You will give it. So if you join all these points, you will get the graph. Do you understand? So I said graph of a function of single variable is nothing but a two-dimensional curve. Do you remember? I told about this in maxima and minima. This is a 2D curve, two-dimensional curve. Is this clear? Now in a similar way, what is the graph of a function of two variables? If I say z equal to f of x comma y, what is input, what is output? Input is x comma y, output is z. What is the collection of x, y, z? This is R, which is in xy plane. Okay, for this point, z may be here, image may be here. For this point, image may be here. For this point, image may be here. So if you join all those points, you are going to get a graph. What is that graph called? What is this called? Graph of z equal to f of x comma y. What is that forms? Y equal to f of x graph is a curve. I said it is a curve. I mentioned specifically it is a curve. If you join all those curves, what do you get? I told this. Surface, three-dimensional surface. Do you understand? So this graph is nothing but a 3D surface. Say it's a three-dimensional surface. Okay, 3D surface. Now integration of a function of single variable gives the area under the curve above the domain. Can you tell what does this integration gives? What does this integration gives? Integral of f of x gives area. Integral of f of x comma y gives what do you see under the surface and above the region? Volume. This gives the volume. Do you agree? Okay, how it gives volume I will tell you. Okay, but you can visualize this, right? You can generalize from this to this concept to this, right? Under the curve you see it's a plane region. So plane region will have only areas, and it's a three-dimensional region in between surface and the R. So naturally that forms a volume. So it gives a volume. Now when come to this, what is the graph of function of f of xyz? What is the graph of function of xyz? What is the dimension of that graph? Input is xyz, output is u. What is that graph? What is the dimension of the graph? How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So what is the dimension of the graph? It's a 4-dimensional figure. Can you visualize? Can we visualize 4-dimensional graph? You cannot visualize. Okay. Therefore, there will not be any geometrical interpretation. There will not be any geometrical interpretation for triple integral, because you can visualize up to 3-dimensional. You can compute all these mensuration things only up to 3-dimensional quantities only, volume, areas, length, all those things, right? Do you understand? Suppose if this is a density function, suppose if this is a density function, f of x y z is a density function. Let us say density need not be uniform throughout the material, right? It may have one density here. At this point, there is maybe another density. So if this is a d of xyz, some d of xyz, if you are integrating a density function over a volume, what does that give? What does that give? If you are integrating density over volume, what is the expected outcome? Please respond whether it is right or wrong. Mass, that's it. Okay. So physically, you will get the mass of the irregular solid. Okay. If you have a density function, you are integrating over its volume. Okay. Then you will get the mass of this solid. Okay. So it has a some kind of physical interpretation, not a geometrical interpretation. Is it clear? Now, how do you define this definite integral? This definite integral is nothing but sum of rectangular areas, right? Something like this. This, how do you get that area exactly? By splitting this interval into, by split. First, initially we will be approximating. Where is my point? So you want to find out the exact area in between these two. For that, what we do, we will be approximating the area with the middle point. Okay. So what is this middle point? So let us say this is you will call this as x0, x1, okay, x2. You can approximate this area with like this. Okay. Either you take x1 or take x0, or you take a middle point. Okay. Let us say this one. Okay, so you can approximate this area with middle point. Let us say C1 and C2. F of C1 is this height, which gives the f of C1 into x0 to x1 distance. If you multiply this length with this height, you will get this rectangular area. Is it not? This rectangular area. Okay, so here there is some unwanted area is there. Similarly, if you are multiplying this with this length and height, you will get another rectangular area. So you can approximate the area bounded by the curve with the sum of two rectangular areas. Okay, this one rectangular area This is another rectangular area subject to some error. We left out some area here. We included some area here. How can you improve the accuracy of this approximation? Instead of taking two rectangles, what if I divide with 4 rectangles, 1, 2, 3, 4, and take one point from each like this: C1, C2, C3, C1, C2, C3, C4. Then the coverage will be more. You see, this part, this unwanted area is removed, and this we included. This we included. Okay, so like this, if you increase the number of partitions, this each rectangle becomes thin and thin, almost looks like a line, okay. So that means what? Initially you are approximating with sum of n rectangular areas, okay. Something like I equals to 1 to n, okay, delta xi, f of xi into delta xi, okay. F of xi into, for don't worry about this index, okay. F of xi into delta xi, where f of xi is the height or length, delta xi is the width, okay. And as you increase the number of partitioning points to infinity, okay, as you increase the number of points to infinity, this will become equal to, okay. So this area is nothing but integral a to b f of x dx, which is nothing but limit n tends to infinity summation I equals to 1 to n f of xi comma delta xi, okay. So this delta xi is becoming dx f of xi f of x a to b, okay. So as you increase the number of partitioning points, okay, what happens? This becomes this rectangular becomes thin and thin. Each is going to be like straight lines, almost like looks like a straight line, thin rectangular strips, so that it will almost cover the entire area bounded by the curve and the x-axis, okay. In a similar way, what we do, you are going to partition this region of integration, okay, with lines parallel to x-axis and parallel to y-axis, okay. So here you see domain is here, okay. I'm going to draw again, okay. So domain is here, its graph is somewhere like this, okay. So you just divide this region into smaller rectangles with lines parallel to x-axis and y-axis. Each one you call it as a cell. One from one cell you take one pointer, okay. Then you compute this, okay. You call it as x1 y1, x2 y2, x3 y3, and so on, okay. So you take f of xk comma yk. You take f of xk comma yk. What is f of x comma yk? That is nothing but height, okay. This is z is nothing but f of xk comma yk, okay. So you take f of xk comma yk, multiply with its it is in this cell. This cell is having length or area. Previously you have taken one representative that will have a length delta xi, which is nothing but a length. What it will have? Area, okay. So delta ak, and like that, how many cells are there? There are n cells, okay. That means summation n equals to 1 to k equal to 1 to n. That gives an approximate volume. Why? Because height into area, base area into height gives the volume, okay. And if you are allowing limit n tending to infinity, limit n tending to infinity, then whatever you get, that is going to be the exact volume bounded under the surface z equal to f of x comma y, and above the region. So this is nothing but double integral over r f of x comma y dA, and this dA is nothing but double integral over R f of x comma y dy dx, okay, delta x to delta y. This delta ak is nothing but what? Delta ak, how do you find out the rectangular area? By multiplying length into width. Length is delta x, width is delta yk. So this delta ak, sorry, dA, okay. So this delta a xk into delta yk, I'm calling it as dA, okay, dak, okay. So r, you can write this as double integral over r f of x comma y dx dy. So you can integrate in two different orders. You can find out the double integral in two different orders of integration. One is in dy dx order, other one is in dx dy order. Okay, how to evaluate this double integral in the given order of integration is our primary task. Okay, for that there are various methods. I will demonstrate those methods, okay, in due course. Okay, so what I am telling is there are two orders, okay, in which you can integrate a function in Cartesian form. Now you said it is going to give volume. It is going to give volume. I completely agree. But what if the function is a constant function? Suppose if the function that you are going to integrate is a 1, then what is integral 1 dA gives? According to this, limit n tends to infinity, limit I k equals to 1 to n, f of xk comma yk. What is f of xk comma yk? 1 into delta xk comma delta yk. Okay, what does it gives? This is delta ak, this is another delta ak, this is another delta ak. You are adding all those areas, and the coverage of the area is more as n tends to infinity. So when you are adding all these things and allowing n tends to infinity, what does it gives?
Total surface
Some
area.
total area of this region, right? This area is divided into smaller areas, and the smaller areas is called as delta a1, delta a2, delta a3, and so on, right? So this gives area. So double integral gives two things. If the function is 1, it gives area. If the function is positive, it gives volume. Is it clear? Same is true for a single integral also, no? You see, what is integral 1 to 1 a to b gives? What is integral 1 sorry, what is integral 1 dx from a to b gives? X from a to b, b minus a. What is this b minus a? Nothing but length only, no? Length of the domain. Domain is one dimensional, it has length. Okay, if f is 1, single integration giving length. If f is positive, single integration giving area. And if f is 1, double integration giving area. If f is positive, double integration giving volume. Is it not generalization? Length to area, area to volume. Natural?
Yes.
Do you understand? Okay. So in a similar way, can you tell me how to can you tell me the limit definition for this triple integral? How we can define this triple integral? Again, how do you partition this? You will partition this with lines parallel to x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. When you are cutting this solid with lines parallel to x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis, what is the smallest? What is the portion of this thing you are going to get? When you are cutting a line into small pieces, you are getting small line segment. If you are cutting a plane into small things, you are getting a small rectangular pieces. If you are cutting a solid into small pieces, what you are going to get?
Circle. Cuboid.
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 You just slice it, you will get cuboids, right? line, rectangle, cuboid. Because you will be, so this volume can be viewed as a composed of smaller cuboids. Do you understand? So from each cuboid you take one point x1, y1, z1. Another cuboid x2, y2, z2, and so on. You will have n cuboids. Okay, and sum of those n cuboid volumes gives an approximate sum of n cuboids will approximately cover the volume. As n tends to infinity, each cuboid is tending to point. Each cuboid tending to point. Okay. Then so that will cover the entire thing. So how do you define this triple integral? Triple integral d f dv can be viewed as limit n tends to infinity, summation k equals to 1 to n f of xk, yk, zk into delta vk. Is it not natural? Here delta xk, here delta ak, length, area, volume. Each cuboid has volume only, no? And that volume is nothing but delta xk, delta yk, delta zk, because the volume of cuboid is length into width into height, lbh. Delta xk, delta yk, delta zk. Do you understand? So this can be written as f dx, dy, dz, or I can write it as f dz, dy, dx, like that. Like that, how many orders of integration I can write? In how many ways I can arrange these three?
Three ways.
Arrange, I said the word arrange. Please listen
6.
carefully. 3 factorial, no?
6.
See, you just passed
6.
intermediate, right? You know the difference between arrangement and common selection, right? So you can do it in 3 factorial, 6 ways: dx, dy, dz, dx, dz, dy, dx, dz, dy, dz, dx, dz, dx, dy, dz, dy, dx, like. Okay, so I can integrate this function in 6 different orders of 6 different orders. Okay. Now, as I said, we don't have any geometrical interpretation, because if you multiply volume with some quantity, what does that gives? We don't know, because we don't know about 4-dimensional figures. But if f of x, y, z equal to 1, then what is this integral gives? Triple integral 1 dv. What does it give? If this is 1, this is exactly 1, then sum of volumes gives
Volume.
volume only, no? What is that? Volume of D. Volume of D. This is area of R. Area of R. R is region of integration. D is region of integration on which you are integrating that thing. Okay. Now you see triple integral 1 gives volume. Double integral f also giving volume. But are these two same, or any difference is there? To find out the volume, which one is more useful? Double integral f or triple integral f? Triple integral 1. Triple integral 1 giving the volume. Triple integral 1 giving the volume. Double integral f also giving the volume. So which one do you think more useful? Here, where is the volume? Volume can be anywhere in the space. Did I make any restrictions on D? I said D is a solid in the space. That solid can be anywhere in the space, no? But this kind of volume, this volume, where? This volume, double integral f gives a volume. That volume is always above the xy plane. That volume is always above the xy plane and below the surface. Can you see? Double integral gives the volume which is always bounded by the surface and the part of xy plane. So which one do you think is more useful for not to find out the volume? double integral 1 dV or double integral f dA? Do you think that triple integral 1 dV is a useful formula, or double integral f dA gives a useful formula to find out the volume?
Triple integral.
Triple integral 1. Okay. In a similar manner, double integral 1 gives area of the region. Single integral also gives the area of the region. Just now you said single integral gives area, but here also we are seeing double integral also giving area. So which formula do you think is more useful to find out the area of a region in xy plane?
Double integral.
Because double integral gives area, that area can be anywhere in xy plane. There is no restriction. Can you see that? Whereas in single integral, the area has to be bounded by x-axis. Definitely, it is bounded by x-axis and the curve. Okay. Therefore, to find out the area of a region, use double integral. To find out the volume of a region, it is better to use the volume integral, triple integral. Is that clear? Okay. Shall I proceed? Okay, now I am going to write down everything in a formal manner. Okay, it's all about an informal discussion. Now I am going to write down about double integral in detail here. Okay, so put this idea heading double integral. Double integral. Write down the statement. Let f of x comma y. Let f of x comma y be a piecewise continuous function. Piecewise continuous function defined on a closed and bounded region. Closed and bounded region. Okay, bounded region. Closed and bounded region are in xy plane. Bounded region is not a necessary condition. On a region R, let us say on a region R in xy plane. Okay, depend on a region xy plane. Okay, then integral of f of x comma y over the region. Okay, over the region. Here I on a region or in xy plane over the region is called the double integral. Okay, notation double integral f of x comma y for the region R dA, which is equal to double integral over R f of x comma y dx dy, or this can be written as a double integral over R f of x comma y dy dx. F of x comma y dy dx. Okay. Note, what is the first point? If f of x comma y greater than 0 for all x comma y in R, then double integral over R f of x comma y dA gives the volume of the region under the surface z equal to f of x comma y, and above the region R. Okay, so double integral f gives the volume when f is positive. If f of x comma y equal to 1, then double integral 1 dA for the region R equal to area of the region. Is this clear now? If f is positive, double integral gives the volume. If f equal to 1, double integral gives the area. Okay. Shall I proceed? Shall I?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, now the next question is how to evaluate a double integral. Okay, how to evaluate a double integral. Put this heading: methods of evaluating double integral. Methods of evaluating double integral. Okay, the region of integration, we're going to classify it as whether it is a rectangular region or non-rectangular region. Okay, so any region other than in rectangular shape, we call it as a non-rectangular region. Whether it is a circular region or elliptical region or parabolic region or any irregular region, we will consider it as a non-rectangular region. Okay, if it is otherwise rectangular region. Okay, and evaluating double integral over a rectangular region is very easy. Okay, so that we are going to see in today's class. And next class, most important part of the discussion, which is integrating over a non-rectangular region, which is not so easy. You need to draw the graph of the function and analyze. Then only you will be able to identify the limits of integration. Okay. So put this heading first part. Okay, double integral over rectangular regions. Double integral over rectangular regions. Okay. Okay. Let us suppose that you are having a rectangular region. Okay. Something like this. Okay. So this rectangular region is bounded by the lines. Okay. X equal to A, x equal to B, and y equal to C, and y equal to D. Okay, you can see this rectangular region. Sorry, you can see the rectangular region. You can see the rectangular region as a combination of 4 line segments: x equal to A, x equal to B, y equal to C, and y equal to D. Do you agree? If the intersection of 4 parallel lines gives a rectangle. Agreed? Okay.
Yes.
So this I'm calling it as R. This I'm calling it as R. So this is R. Okay. So what I am talking? Let f of x comma y. Let f of x comma y be defined on a rectangular region. R in xy plane rectangular region R in xy plane bounded by the lines x equal to a, x equal to b, y equal to c, and y equal to d. What is the condition? A less than b, c less than d. Okay, then what is this double integral? Double integral over R f of x comma y dA gives double integral over f of x comma y. Which order you want to write? Limits depending upon that order. If I am writing dy dx order, then here this integral corresponds to the first variable, next integral corresponds to the next variable, and so on. So if you are writing this order, here you have to write down y limits of integration, here you have to write down x limits of integration, and y varies from see here y varies from where to where, c to d, and x varies from where to where, a to b. Okay, so here y limits are going to be from c to d, and x limits are going to be from a to b. And if you are writing this in dx dy order, then what are the limits I should write here? Can you tell me?
A to B.
X varies from a to b, and y varies from where to where? C to D. Can you see that? So when you change the order of integration, you simply have to interchange these two integrals. Okay, dy dx becomes dx dy, means you have to interchange these. A to b comes first, c to d comes next. Is that okay? Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Now, next question is how to evaluate this integral. Okay. Now, all of you, please listen carefully. Look at what I am telling. What is the order you are seeing here? Dy dx. So that means I have to first integrate with respect to y. So when you are integrating with respect to one variable, treat all the remaining variables as constants. When you are integrating with respect to one variable, treat all the remaining variables as constants, just like partial differentiation. Okay. So here, when you are integrating with respect to y, treat x as constant and do normal integration, usual integration. Then substitute these limits in place of y, because you are integrating with respect to y. Then what will be the outcome after substituting the limits in place of y? What will be the outcome? Outcome will be function of x. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Once the outcome is function of x, you integrate that function of x with respect to x and substitute the limits a to b in place of x. What will be the outcome?
Constant.
Constant. In a similar manner, if you are taking this order dx dy, first integrate with respect to x by treating y as constant. Then substitute these limits in place of x. Outcome will be function of y. That function of y integrate with respect to y, substitute these limits in place of y. What is the output?
Constant.
That means whatever the order of integration you do, final answer must be constant only. In one order variable, other order constant, no. Okay, both orders of integration should give constant, and both should give same value. Okay, these two are equal, you see. So that means evaluation of double integral is nothing but repeated integration only. You are doing integration two times. Can you see that? Okay, so evaluating a double integral is nothing but repeated application of single integration, provided you know the limits of integration. Provided you know the limits of integration. Is that clear? Okay. Let me take an example. Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just hold on. I'll just hold. Okay. So now I shall demonstrate this with an example. So take an example. Evaluate. Evaluate. Let us say like this. X square by x square by dA over R where R is bounded by 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 1 and minus 1 less than or equal to y less than or equal to 1. Let us say like this. So where is the region? Can you tell me? It's a rectangular region. From where to where? Minus 1 to plus 1 and 0 to 1. That means this one.
One.
Do you agree? This is the rectangular region. 0, 1. This is x-axis. This is y-axis. Is this clear? Okay. Now, how do you evaluate this one? Suppose if I want to or R, call it as R. Okay. If I want to take the order dy dx, dy dx, then what limits I have to write here? What are the limits for y? Y varies from
-1 to
minus 1 to 1, minus 1 to 1, and x varies from
0 to 1.
okay 0 to 1. Okay, for the simplicity, I would like to take it as minus 1 to 2 because otherwise you may get it 0. Okay, so call this as 2. Then y varies from minus 1 to 2. Is it fine now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now integrate this. How do you integrate for this? When you are integrating with respect to y, when you are integrating with respect to y, x to be treated as constant. Therefore, x square is
Constant.
constant. Y integration is y square by 2. Substitute the limits from minus 1 to 2 dx. Okay, so upper limit minus lower limit. Do that. Okay, so you can bring that 1 by 2 outside also. Y square from minus 1 to 2 dx. So this is 1 by 2, 0 to 1 x square. What is 2 square? 2 square is 4 minus 1 whole square is 1 dx. 4 minus 1 is 3. So this is 3 by 2, 0 to 1 x square dx. So this is 3 by 2 x cube by 3 from 0 to 1. So that means 3 by 2 into 1 by 3, which is equal to 1 by 2. Do you agree? Agreed? Or not? Repeated application of single integration. Okay, call it as method 1. Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So what is method 2? Method 2, double integral over R f of x comma y dA equal to xy square Instead of dy dx, I would like to write it as dx dy. Now, what are x limits? X vary from where to where? X varying from 0 to 1. Y varying from where to where? Minus 1 to 2. So now integrate with respect to x square y. Okay, fine. So this is x square y. Okay. Now x square y. Now you are integrating with respect to x first. So y to be treated as constant. X square integration is x cube by 3 from 0 to 1 dy. So this is minus 1 to 2 y into 1 by 3 minus 0 dy. So 1 by 3 can be taken outside. Okay. Integral minus 1 to 2 y dy. So this is 1 by 3. Y integration is y square by 2 with the limits from minus 1 to 2. So this is 1 by 3. 4 by 2 is 2 minus 1 by 2 is 1 by 2. So this is 1 by 3 into 4 minus 1 by 3 into 3 by 2. Answer is 1 by 2. Are you getting the same value? You should
Yes,
get
sir.
the same value. Okay. So whatever the order you integrate, you should get the same value. Okay. So is it not easy? So it is easy to evaluate the double integral if it is if the region of integration is if the region of integration is a rectangular region. It is just a repeated application of single integral. Okay. By treating remaining variables as constants. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So I just discussed 2 more problems. After that, I shall conclude and finish the class. Okay. Yeah, I will give you some problems as homework. You try to do them. Okay. Now, can you do this problem now? Integral 3 to 4, integral 1 to 2, 1 by x plus y whole square dy dx. 1 by x plus y whole square dy dx. So which variable I have to treat as constant? First I have to integrate with respect to
X.
y. So treat x as constant. Remember, treat x as constant. Then can you tell me the integration of 1 by x plus y whole square? So treat for the time being, call x as a plus y whole square dy. You just want only this, or integration of 1 by y plus a whole square dy. Can you tell me what is integration of y plus a whole square? 1 by y plus a whole square?
Minus 1 by y plus a.
Minus 1 by y plus a. Antiderivative, no? Or you take substitution 1 by y, 1 by, you take y plus a equal to t, dy equal to dt, 1 by t square is minus 1 by t. So this is 1 by y plus a. What is a here? X. Can you see that? So this is minus 1 by x plus y with the limits from 1 to 2 dx. Is this point clear to all of you? And this problem is very, very important in this aspect. You have to integrate with respect to one variable, treat the other variable as constant. Is it okay? Now substitute the limits. What are the limits? Where I have to substitute in place of x or in place of y?
Y.
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 So tell me the limits. Minus 1 by x plus 2 minus of minus plus 1 by x plus 1.
X plus.
Agreed? So this is 3 to 4, 1 by x plus 1 minus 1 by x plus 2 dx. And this is a normal integration. What is integration of 1 by x plus 1? Log of x plus 1
Log of
minus
X plus 1.
log of x plus 2.
Log of X plus 2.
3 to 4. Okay, don't substitute now. Simplify logarithms first. This is log of x plus 1 by x plus 2, the limits from 3 to 4. So this is log 5 by 6 minus log 4 by 5. So this is log a minus log b is log a by b. Log 5 by 6 divided by 4 by 5. That means log 5 by 6 into 5 by 4. This is log 25 by 24. Do you agree? Do you agree or not?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. So in your homework, you try to do the same problem by changing the order of integration. Instead of dy dx order, you do in dx dy order and tell me what do you get. Okay. So I'll just do one more problem and start the class. So tell me integral from pi to 2 pi, 0 to pi, 0 to pi, sin x plus cos y, sin x plus cos y, dx dy, dx dy. Can you tell me the integral of this? Pi to 2 pi. What is integration of sin x with respect to x?
Minus cos
Minus
x.
cos.
Minus cos x. What is integration of cos y with respect to x?
X cos y.
X cos y, because when you are integrating with respect to x, yeah, I told you to treat y as constant. When y is constant, cos y is constant. What is integration of a constant? Constant into x. Okay, so this is x cos y. Is this point clear to all of you? Always remember you are integrating with respect to x. Substitute the limits from 0 to pi. Is this okay? Fine. Pi to
Yes,
2
sir.
pi. Now substitute the limits and simplify. What is upper limit? Give bracket for upper limit. Give one bracket for lower limit. Simplify and then integrate. So what is cos pi? Cos pi is minus 1. Minus into minus 1 plus pi cos y minus cos 0 is 1 minus 1 and plus 0 into anything is 0. Is this right? Upper limit minus lower limit is over. So pi to 2 pi. What is the simplification? Minus or minus plus 1 plus 1 is 2 plus pi cos y dy. What is the integration? 2y plus pi sin y. Pi to 2. So this is 4 pi plus sin 2 pi is 0 minus 2 pi sin pi is 0. So what is the answer? Final answer? 2 pi. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So I shall give some problems as homework. You try to do those problems. It is just repeated application of doing single integral only by treating remaining variables as constant. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in this class, we try to generalize into the concept of single integral to double integral and triple integral, and we have seen some geometrical interpretations of double integral, and some physical interpretation of physical and triple integral. Okay, and we identified that double integral can be double integral 1 gives area, double integral f gives volume bounded by the surface and the region R whenever f is positive, and double integral 1 always gives the volume. Okay, and after that we have seen the method of evaluating double integral over a rectangular region, and one more observation. What are the limits for a rectangular region? If you see, the limits over a rectangular region are constants. Can you see? A, B, C, D are constants. Okay, so whenever you see all the limits are constants, that means you are integrating over a rectangular region. Whenever your region of integration is a rectangular region, all the limits are going to be constant. Make a point of this. Okay, see, all the limits are constants. Can you see that? So rectangular region, all the limits are constant. When all the limits are constants, you are integrating over a rectangular region. Okay. So after that, we have seen some problems on how to integrate given function over a rectangular region, different orders of integration in dy dx order or dx dy order. I said in whatever the order you integrate, final answer must be constant. Okay, both orders of integration will give the same value, which is a constant. Okay, in the next class we will see how to integrate a function over a non-rectangular region, and so that is a very important class, so don't absent for that class. Okay, so today's class you just go through once again and try to solve the homework problems that I'm going to do today. Okay, let me take the attendance.